So today we're going to be taking a look at the finale of the alternative future of the World Series. That's right, we are finally on episode 20 and the series will be coming to an end today. Well, when you see this video, of course. If you haven't seen the previous video or videos or the entire series as a whole, go binge watch it right now because this is going to be a banger. Once again, the series is ending. This video, I'm going to try to make it as crazy possible in a good way. And yeah. Let's just jump into it. If you're new here, make sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel for new. Also, the merch is going away very soon. It might be gone by the next video. So there's actually going to be a discount code that's on the screen right now. 100k away is the code. You can get 50% off on all orders. That is a good bargain. I recommend picking up something if you haven't already. Members, of course, you also get a higher discount than that. I'll post it in the members Discord server. Speaking of members, become one if you aren't. Anyway, finale time. Let's do a quick recap and then we'll get right into the war. In the last video, a lot happened, as in every alternative future video. Most importantly though, there was a three-way war happening between the Allies, the Axis, and the Central Powers. Speaking of these three alliances in the last video, they all expanded greatly, with kind of the expansion triggering this very war. The Allies, of course, as we all know, weren't allowed to expand, but they did so anyway, which caused the Axis to declare war on them. But they added Colombia, they added Chile, they added in Australia, New Zealand, and the Philippines, as well as Japan. That violated the treaty. The Axis declared war on the Allies, and the Central Powers joined in on that war in order to kind of just, one, make this scenario more interesting, but also just because they want to control the world and they want to take advantage of a weak Allies and Axis. And of course, weak as in like they're at war with each other. They're not weak. By all means, the Central Powers is probably the weakest alliance here, and the Axis the strongest, but they think they can take advantage of this little war that's happening between the Allies and Axis. But we'll have to see what happens. Also, there is a very notable thing happening on this map right now. Of course, there's blue, there's red, there's yellow, and then there's white. China is completely neutral. In the last video, they took over Siam, they united with Tibet, and that was about it. Switzerland is also a white country here. Now, they haven't done anything this entire series. They've been neutral forever, like since episode 1. Their borders have not changed. They haven't gotten involved with any alliances, any wars, anything like that. I don't even think I've mentioned them aside from mentioning the fact that they are neutral. So with the obvious stated, let's get straight to the fighting. I know you guys have been waiting for it. All right, we have Axis troops making the first move here in the Turkey. Now, Turkey has been through a lot in recent episodes, more so the later half of the series, but they have been invaded, they have been broken apart, reunited, all of that, and they are not as strong as they once were. So the Axis has a pretty easy time pushing into them from Russia, Iran, and this, but also from Bulgaria, who is kind of a lone star over here in Europe, surrounded by the Central Powers, and then Albania, or no, not Albania, wait a minute. No, this is Albania, I forgot about that. But yeah, Albania to their west. So they're gonna have to do what they can do to survive. I doubt that they're gonna last very long on this front, but you never know. Elsewhere, we see the Axis invade into Norway, as well into Poland. Now, this scenario will be kind of a turn-based kind of thing. So right now, I just did the red team, next I'll do the blue team, then yellow team, and the red team, blue team, yellow team, so on and so forth. Just because this is a three-way war, it's gonna be kind of hard to jump all over the place. As I said, blue team's turn. The United States is quick to invade into Mexico here. Yeah, Mexico joined the Central Powers in the previous video, and honestly, they probably would have been better just not joining the alliance or maybe joining the Allies. But since they were under United States rule forever, they kind of have a grudge against them. But here, yeah, I mean, Mexico was kind of torn apart when the whole WDO collapsed and the United States was invaded. And ever since then, they haven't been as powerful as they once were. Sure, they have all of their land back and then some, but still, we're talking about this country which is just, was ripped in half by the United States, left on its own for a year, forced into the WDO. Then all of a sudden we have the Axis coming along, invading up through it into America, and then they finally get their independence, and then they get involved with another war over here in Central America. And yeah, I mean, they do have U.S. equipment there from when the U.S. was a part of, or when Mexico was a part of the U.S. Oh yeah, newsflash, America's strong again. Just in time too, how convenient. Down south, we see Colombia start to invade into Brazil here, and they're kind of their strategy is to basically just get Brazil out of the war as soon as possible. The Americans up north, the United Statesians, if you will, are going to help them out as much as possible, but they have to focus on Alaska and Mexico first, so they're going to be kind of on their own here. They're going to also have to rely on Argentina and Uruguay to go after both Brazil and Chile, unfortunately, but with that distraction in the south, maybe Colombia and Venezuela will be able to hold out. All right, now over to Europe with the blue team. They're going to start to invade into Germany. Not much else. In Africa, we see the blue team start to invade into Tunisia, and Australia makes a landing in Papua New Guinea. Their invasion of this island goes pretty swiftly, as Indonesian troops were not ready for this, surprisingly enough, and now they start their island hopping campaigns. Alright, now it's the yellow team's turn. First off, we have Uruguay and Argentina invading up into South Brazil, as well as over into not Argentina, that's Chile. I'm embarrassed. But Chile is basically knocked out of this war right away, with their capital of Santiago being captured, and they take no time in surrendering. They don't want to be a part of it. As much as they are a strong member of the Allies, as soon as you lose your capital in this kind of scenario down here in South America, it's probably best just to surrender. Now hopping over to Africa, they are going to do all sorts of things over here. It's a big war. The South Africans invade both countries at the same time with the help of Ethiopia. Indonesia does nothing but go on defense. And over here in Europe, we have Romania and Serbia invading. Is that Serbia? Yes, it is Serbia. They're invading into Bulgaria. They also invade into Albania and take over their capital, which is not good. We have the Germans invading into Poland. This is where a majority of their forces are, so this is why they're kind of losing land over here in the lowlands. But they're also invading up into Denmark, taking this thing over in 8 hours instead of 6. Remember how a couple videos ago, I don't know if it was in the Alternative Future series, I said 6 hours and then it was 7 hours. Now it's 8 hours. So progressively, Denmark is getting better at not dying in a short amount of time. Anyway, it's the red team's turn to screw stuff up. They take a different approach in Africa and go straight towards the Sahara. There's like nobody here. I say this every time I mention the Sahara, but it's just a wasteland. There's no point in invading it. The only reason the red team is doing it is just to make it look like they're doing stuff on the map, even though they really aren't. All they're doing is walking through the desert. Back over here in Europe, we have them taking over the northern part of Norway. I know there's all a bunch of mountains there. Let's just pretend that they take it. And they also take Oslo, which is not good. They make a landing in northern Japan and start to move down south. Luckily, this island here is not very, I don't want to say it's not valuable, but compared to like the main island of Japan, you would rather lose this than lose this. Brazil's going to make a little incursion into Venezuela up north, as well as make a landing in Cyprus and take over more of Turkey. Finally, they're going to take a little bit more of Poland, and eventually Poland is going to have to be forced to surrender over to the red and yellow teams, and it's split up like this. Now this is a new front line. This isn't a peace treaty. The yellow team and the red team are not working together. They are fighting against each other. Let me go ahead and grab a thumbnail real quick. All right, heading back over to America. America is going to continue to invade into Mexico. They're now going to make a landing over here in the Yucatan Peninsula and move down towards Central America, where eventually we have Colombia starting an invasion into Nicaragua. America makes another landing, this time from the Caribbean into the Honduras area. And slowly but surely, Central America is liberated from Mexico, even though they're probably better off under Mexico's rule compared to the United States' due to language and a lot more. But then again, there's the whole Honduras, El Salvador thing, and there's Guatemala, and yeah, there's a lot of things that are not going well down here in real life right now. So maybe it's better. Okay, I'm not going to say that though, because being under US rule is not fun. Unless you are like from America itself. If you're like, for say Iraq, back when it was occupied by America, probably not a good time. But hey, that's in the past now, and we're in the alternative future. Mexico, invasion. Not great, not looking good, really not looking good. Oh, there it goes. All right, Mexico is capitulated by the blue team, and now the United States is going to start sending a majority of their troops down here to South America in order to fend off Brazil and Argentina, but also sending some troops up towards Canada to take back Alaska, if that's even a plausible thing to say. Probably not. I highly doubt that Russia is even defending that, because it's a lot of land. And Russia, I don't have it on the map. I used to have it, but I erased it. It's kind of like that. That's a really bad drawing, but you have to like cross the Bering Strait, and then that's not fun. So they're probably not defending it. They probably sucked up all the oil that they can and left, like a father getting the milk. Back over in Europe here, France and their guys are going to continue to do well against Germany. For now, they invade even more of the Netherlands and finally enter into Germany itself. They also enter into Italy from the mountains, but little do they know that Germany is about right here, and they're about to go about right here, maybe. In Africa, we have the blue team continuing to invade across northern Africa, targeting major cities along the Mediterranean coast. They are not the slightest bit worried about this, because this is irrelevant. Over in Indonesia, Australia continues to do island hopping as they take more and more of Indonesia's islands. And if we're talking about Australia right now, they're probably like really strong in this timeline. I've probably already said this before. It's been a long 20 episodes, but Australia in this timeline is probably like one of the strongest countries just because of their location. They can take advantage of how big their country is. They can use the center stuff maybe for military testing and stuff. I don't know what you guys do with that outback, but we're going to assume that they're a very strong country, and that's why they're taking on Indonesia, who's also probably one of the stronger countries due to their growing population. And, you know, they also have a large amount of land. But they continue to do island hopping, and Indonesia lets it happen. And that is until they get to the 4 main areas of Indonesia. They take a little bit more islands, and after that, they are unable to take islands. The colonized can no longer colonize. Heading back to Europe now, we have the Germans doing something crazy. Except it's not crazy because I already said it was going to happen. They push back the blue team, specifically France, and they do so with relatively a lot of ease. They finally meet back with the original border, and from here they enter into the Belgium. That's right, the Belgium. They head into northern France, and now France is starting to freak out because this is about to happen to them for like the 3rd or 4th time in history. The Central Powers managed to capitulate all of Albania/Greece, and the red team takes all of Turkey and a lot of Greece's islands. So now their military presence in the Mediterranean Sea is pretty substantial. The South Africans continue to mainly target the Egyptians because they have a grudge against them. But no, I mean, they don't have really a grudge against these guys. It's more so of you're on the enemy team, I'm on my team, so we have to fight each other even though we did nothing to each other. So they do take a little bit of land, but they're mainly going after Egypt here. Argentina does a little bit more invading into Brazil, but they are eventually stopped by Brazilian forces. Back in Europe, we have the red team starting their invasion of the Central Powers. They take over They take over Moldova with relative ease and push into Romania, capturing their capital. They then go into Slovakia and start to invade the German portions, English, that were taken over by the Germans. I mean, Poland. God, what am I saying right now? I don't speak my own language very well. I don't know why this is not letting me color it in right. Let me try doing that actually. Yeah, there we go. So the Russians and the red team are pushing into Europe. They also start to take back parts of Bulgaria, and the Balkan area of the yellow team is looking very not good. Back in Africa, we have the Egyptians pushing back the South Africans, and I mean, this is kind of a back and forth thing right here. This is a large amount of land. So it's just a lot of skirmishes, not really that much advancing. In South America, we have the Brazilians pushing back the Argentinians. They took over all of Uruguay, and so they're about to capture Argentina's capital. From here, they start to advance on all fronts into northern Argentina. They're not really focusing in on the north here, and that's probably not a great thing because the United States is here. They help Venezuela push out the Brazilians, and from here, they start their invasion of Brazil as a whole. The Amazon rainforest probably doesn't even exist anymore because it's all been chopped down, or fires and global warming. Future doesn't sound too fun. But the blue team is invading Brazil to the best of their capability. Up in Alaska, we have the blue team pushing back against the... Well, they're not pushing back, but they are invading Alaska, and they take over the major parts of it. And basically from here, they're captured. The Russians, if they were defending Alaska, would only be along the southern coast right here, and they weren't there. So basically, Alaska is now re-Americanized. I mean, technically, it was Canadian, but before that, it was American. So they're re-North Americaned, something like that. I don't know. Now we have the blue team making a landing in from the Philippines into northern Indonesia. Now this was kind of a surprise invasion, and it goes pretty well at first, but eventually it stalemates out. And slowly but surely, the blue team is starting to kind of lose power around the world. As for the yellow team, they continue to push into France. They've already got the fries, now they need the French to make the French fries. Funny joke. They capture Paris, and France does not surrender. You thought, got you real good there. But they do their best to hold off the Germans. The UK is of course sending troops down, and they actually managed to stalemate them. Surprisingly enough, France holds out. And this is about the only area that they're holding up because the rest of the world, the yellow team, is kind of struggling. Argentina is losing land to Brazil at a very rapid rate. The South Africans are in a stalemate with the red team and aren't really going after the blue team right now. The Indonesians just got snuck up on, and they've been kind of limited to this area over here. Germany seems to be the only one carrying their weight, but even then, they are starting to get invaded by the Russians. Speaking of the Russians, they take all of Norway. They invade the rest of Romania, capitulate that country. They save all of Bulgaria and even annex all of Albania. That is so weird to say. From here, they start to push into Serbia. No good. Very not good. The Brazilians continue their rapid invasion of Argentina, and this country was not made for the big stage apparently. After a few more days, weeks, or months of fighting, Argentina surrenders over to Brazil, and from here, Chile is traded over to the red team for Chile. Now Brazil can focus on the north here and battle up against the United States and Canada. as well as Colombia. In Africa, we have the red team forces moving up north to try to cut off blue team forces, but this plan fails. So instead they start to go after the Atlantic coast, but this also fails. They do a little bit more pushing back up against the South Africans, but they've only been able to do that over here in the center of Africa. Elsewhere, they've been unsuccessful. And over in Japan, we have the landing of red team troops in northern Japan and the invasion of the island. Now, Japan is probably very heavily populated at this point, or maybe they're not, because their population is actually rapidly declining in real life. They make another landing over here where the big nuclear bombs were dropped, and the red team is starting to creep up into Japan. Slowly though, very slowly. Back over in Europe, holy crap, France is pushing back Germany. This is insane. Germany is having flashbacks to World War II when they were getting pancaked. Paris is liberated, and its victory well, no, not yet. The blue team isn't actually doing that bad in the European front, which is surprising. In the African front, they managed to push back the red team in Africa, taking back a bunch of desert. Congratulations, you have sand now. They also pushed back the South Africans in the south, saying that, you know, we're kind of chill. They don't sign a peace treaty here, but they basically agree to like a, what's it called? Armistice? No. Yes, it is armistice. I am stupid. In Indonesia, the invasions of Indonesia are starting to kind of ramp back up again. They capture they capture Java and Jakarta, and with that, Indonesia essentially collapses, losing all of Borneo. I highly doubt that Indonesia would fall this quickly, even to Australia, but just for the sake of this video, let's go ahead and just speed that part up a little bit. So now the oceanic front is completely blue. Oceanic as in everything south of the Philippines, because this obviously is not going well. Back in Brazil, the Colombians and the Venezuelans and the Americans and the Canadians, the Americans, are doing great against Brazil. So much so that the Brazilians are kind of questioning why they kind of suck at war, especially against the blue team and the North Americans. Maybe because all their forces are trying to put down all the Argentinian rebellions in the south. Maybe because the red team isn't supplying them. Who knows? The blue team and Brazil specifically are going to come to an agreement here, basically signing an armistice just like the Western Union and the South African Union did. This armistice also has some terms to it. This isn't an official peace treaty once again. So, Chile is to be released by Brazil. All Brazilian forces are to leave Chile, and in exchange for that, the blue team will leave Brazilian lands. Now, I put emphasis on Brazilian there for a reason, because they only leave Brazilian lands. They don't recognize Peru and the Guyana area as Brazilian, and Brazil's okay with this right now because they're kind of struggling. But that armistice is signed between Brazil and then the Americans, and now the Americans are going to Europe, kind of like in World War II, but this time it's a little bit different because Germany is already crumbling. They will do something funny that is very similar to Blitzkrieg and try to take out Russia. Basically, they send all of their manpower, not all of it, but a majority of it, into Russia to try to take Moscow and somehow convince the red team to sign a peace treaty. This goes well for about a week. They definitely don't get to the extent of which they once were, but oh, very quickly does this backfire. The Russians are pummeling Germany. They take back all of that land plus Poland, and now they're up in Serbia and into Italy, all of Slovakia, and into southern parts of Germany. They even make a landing in Denmark and take over that entire country. The northern German coast is cut off by the Axis and by the Allies over here. Berlin is on the brink of being captured, and it's basically just Germany and Italy and South Africa and Ethiopia, they exist, versus the world. Germany feels like they're backed into a corner here, and they start to threaten the Allies and the Axis, saying if you don't leave our country now, there's going to be catastrophic events. The Axis and the Allies, not knowing what kind of mess they're about to get into, deny this and continue to invade Germany. And as soon as the Allies cross over into Frankfurt, all hell is unleashed on both alliances. Nuclear bombs hit key cities such as Paris and London, Madrid and Lisbon, Barcelona, Dublin, Oslo, Copenhagen, Warsaw, Bucharest, Athens, Sofia, Kyiv, we have Riga, we have Tallinn. Is that what it's called? Yeah, I think it's Tallinn. Helsinki's hit, Stockholm, I think I already said Stockholm, they're hit again. I'm kind of missing some of the cities here. Lithuania's capital, Moscow, Sevastopol, Odessa, Istanbul, Ankara, Alexandria, Jerusalem, Tehran, Washington, D.C., New York City, Miami, the northern coast of Brazil. Morocco's kind of lit up a little bit. Same with some of the northern Mediterranean cities, Tunis, Libya's capital. And we can kind of see the range of Germany's nukes here. So it's centered kind of like this, if you can kind of make it out, except they've been more predominantly hitting this side of the circle. The circle actually goes a little bit more over here, So now you can see the full circle. This is just the area which they've hit so far. This is what they've yet to hit. Speaking of, Islamabad, Delhi, major Indian cities. This is wiping out millions and millions of people. And the Axis and the Allies are going to respond. Berlin, Rome, the major cities in South Africa. Basically, they're just bombing every major city, or just, I don't know, any African cities, if I'm being quite honest with you. But everywhere is getting hit by everyone. And now the Allies and the Axis did an oopsie. They nuked each other. So Korea is lit up like a firework. Japan cannot get enough of that radiation. The Philippines, they are all lit up. So is Australia. And it's looking very bad for humanity. Not just the world, the countries, but actual humanity as a whole. What did New Zealand do to deserve this? Nothing, but they got it anyway. Now we have cities like Chicago getting hit. We have Los Angeles getting hit. San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, Houston. Nowhere is safe. Hey Canada, I didn't forget about you. So, all your cities are hit. You don't have very many major cities, so that'll do for you. Algiers is hit, and finally the radiation is starting to kick in, and people are dying in like billions. I'm not sure of the population of the world at this point because there's been so much war happening. I'm gonna give it maybe 12 to 13 billion. I might be lowballing it there, but there's a lot of people dying. So of those 12 to 13 billion, I'd say around 6 billion has died so far just from the nukes. Remember, this is a futuristic scenario. This is like 200 to 300 years later. So these nukes are probably gonna be like a lot more powerful than they are today. I'd also assume that the measures against them are also going to be pretty powerful in this timeline. But the numbers of nukes has probably greatly increased too due to World War III and World War IV. And was there a World War V? Probably. This is probably World War VI or VII. I don't know. Anyway, humanity is now dying. In the coming year, we have the yellow team being completely eliminated from existence, being split between the Allies and the Axis, and now it's just a war between the Allies and the Axis. In Africa, the Axis is quick to sweep out all of the Western Union in order to focus in on Europe, Australia, and the New World, which at this point is probably the Old World, and this is the older world. The Western Union is swept, and so is Morocco. Any chance that the blue team had in Europe is quickly not a chance. Japan finally falls, and so do the Philippines. And keep in mind, this is all with the nukes going off and all the radiation and stuff. So this is a very hard war to fight, but it is being fought. Brazil re-enters the war and violates the armistice, taking all of Chile, push the Americans back out of their country, and start to invade into Colombia and Venezuela. France is taken and surrenders, and so is Spain. The UK is left. We have Colombia and Venezuela being forced into surrender, and the Caribbean falling over to the red team. Mexico is now starting to be invaded by the red team, and at this point, it is do or die for the blue team. And unfortunately, the blue team is going to choose die. And what do I mean by that? Well, as you can tell, the blue team is going to lose this war. They are sick and tired of all the wars happening in the world. The world to them is infested by war. They can't win the wars, and when they do win the wars, it doesn't last. They can never defeat the enemy. That is, at this point, Russia. The core of this whole series has always been the United States versus Russia. The United States has won some, Russia has won some. This is the final draw between them. It looks like Russia is going to win it. And if they do win this one, they will claim the world, unlike the United States was unable to do. And when Russia does claim the world, they are going to convert everything to their ideology. Not saying that America wouldn't do the same thing, but that is the ultimate goal of Russia here and their allies of India, Iran, Egypt, and many, many more. Americans in the Americas, so people from the United States, would most likely be targeted by any Russian government officials. They could be tortured. They could be locked up for any reason, basically a Russian Holocaust. But I don't want to put it in that kind of word because Russia would never do something like that. But you get the idea of what I'm saying. It would not be pretty if you're American. And that actually doesn't just apply to America. Of course, that is the number one enemy of Russia, but also Canadians, Australians, New Zealanders, the UK, Greenlanders, Icelanders, for some reason, the French, Spaniards, the Moroccans, basically anyone that had an association with the WDO, the Japanese, they would be subject to Russian rule, and Russian rule against them would not be fun. So the United States is going to go ahead and pull together a meeting. By this time, the leaders of Australia and New Zealand have already fled their country to America, and the UK has done so as well. But they meet in Washington, D.C. They don't meet there because that's a radiation hole. Instead, they meet in Richmond, Virginia, and they decide to launch Operation Reset. Now, what is Operation Reset? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. They plan to reset the world by any means possible. And just as they're about to put this plan into action, an extraordinary event takes place, which literally nobody saw coming. Not even you, the viewer. Maybe you did. Maybe you guys are pretty smart. China declares war on the world. Now let's remember here now. This is not humanity's China. This is AI's China. I just bit my tongue. That freaking hurt. They have been building a pretty sizable robotic army. Now, as cliche as this is 300 years in the future, and AI will probably advance to a level of this capability, but they start their invasion of the world, and they are unable to stop them. At this point, humanity as a whole is no match. Remember, these AI, they are not humans. They can't feel weather. They don't get tired. They are already programmed to be the best combatants that they can be. Swimming, not an issue. They don't have to eat. They can make ammo out of their fallen comrades should any of the robots ever fall in battle, which is already extremely unlikely. These things are war machines, and humanity cannot stop it. All of Russia is wiped out. All of Egypt is wiped out, and soon Europe will fall to the same fate. Billions of AI robots all moving across the world. But for some reason, Switzerland is not taken. Now, why wasn't Switzerland taken? Well, due to their technology, isolation, and overall smartness, they were able to build kind of a force field-like structure around themselves. Now, it's not actually a circle as it's shown on the map. It more lines their border perfectly, and in cases all of Switzerland, it's kind of like a dome. If you've ever seen the Simpsons movie, kind of like that, except more jagged and rigid. But the AI is unable to penetrate it, as smart as they are. Switzerland just has a lot of plot armor. I'm going to be honest with you. Switzerland is safe. That's why the AI has not invaded it. But now with the AI making the cross to Iceland and eventually Greenland, there is no longer a war between the Allies and the Axis. It is instead a battle against humanity and AI. And unfortunately, humanity was too busy fighting itself, and the AI will win this war, if you even call it a war. Thousands and thousands of people are launched into orbit as the AI take over what is known as home for the Americans. They up and from South America, from Antarctica, and all of South America falls. At this point, world leaders are also shot into orbit, as the only things that remain are the people who are unable to make it, or the people who are left behind. But there are 3 very important people left in the world. And just as America is about to be captured for the final time, they make a decision in Richmond, Virginia. They launch Operation Reset. Thousands upon thousands of nuclear rockets are shot up, not from just America, but from Canada, from Colombia, from Chile, from the UK, France, Spain, Poland, Turkey, all of the allies, Australia, New Zealand, Japan. Thousands of rockets from each of those countries are shot up into the air, and one by one all hit the ground at the same time. The last part of the United States and Virginia finally falls, but on that day, humanity is not the only thing that fell. As those rockets hit the ground all over the world, it became very clear that the AI were not going to be able to survive even this. These are Tsar Bomba-sized nukes, and as more and more of them hit, more and more of the world is destroyed. These are just the bigger bombs. There are smaller bombs hitting everywhere else that are probably around, I'd say, this size. That's the minimum size. But finally, there are 2 bombs left. 2 of the largest bombs the world has ever seen, both in size, magnitude, and capability. These 2 bombs are dropped in 2 very strategical locations. One is dropped in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and the other is dropped over here in the Pacific near China. These 2 bombs were very well coordinated by the last 3 that were surviving in Richmond, and they chose these locations in order to do something that we all know and love. That is, of course, to sink the world into the bottom of the ocean. Tidal waves that are thousands of feet high start to wave over the American continent, wiping out all evidence that humanity ever existed. This isn't just happening one way, it's happening 2 ways. Africa and Europe are hit at the same time, and tidal waves that are once again thousands upon thousands of feet high wipe out any remnants of humanity and any remnants of land. The second one does exactly the same. Tidal waves. Australia is engulfed, and with that the rest of Asia, and eventually these 2 waves meet and cause a very large boom. A boom that is heard from space as the remainder of humanity watches as their world is engulfed in water. A very prudent green cloud starts to cover the world as the rest of humanity is unable to look upon their Earth, as all they see is green, except it's not land, it's radiation. And now we're left with 2 dots. Earth is ruined, and it will never be the same as it once was. Land will most likely never exist on this Earth. The probability of land or even life coming back is very low. Humanity, sitting in orbit of its destroyed planet, decided to go elsewhere. For now, Mars, which was most likely already claimed by humanity and most likely in livable conditions. But warfare there would soon prove to be a mess, as Mars falls and meets the same fate as Earth. Humanity would go on to live in different exoplanets along the asteroid belt and even on the moons of Jupiter, but war would follow them wherever they went, and wherever they went would soon be destroyed, in a matter of hundreds or thousands of years. Eventually, humanity would leave the solar system as it was destroyed. A large split takes place between them. Half goes to one solar system, the half goes to another.
From Indigar.com, the second largest city in Croatia, after its capital Zagreb, split sprawls along a peninsula, jutting dramatically into the Adriatic.
What? I'm trying to do storytelling here, woman. But the big split happens. Half goes to one solar system, half goes to another, and war still plagues them. Eventually, a ginormous galactic war would take place between these two sides, and the rest is future. I want to thank you guys so much for all of the support that happened with this series. It is by far my most successful series ever. I know I said that with the Empire series, but this one has proven to be a lot better. If you've watched the entire video, thank you. This is going to be a pretty long one, and I'm going to have to get to editing it pretty soon. I really hate editing videos now, but I'll get over it just for this special occasion. But yeah, the support in the series has been amazing. Season 2, of course, will drop when I feel like it's necessary. There is going to be a season 2. I just don't know when it will come out. And yeah, so thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the Alternative Future series, make sure to slam that like button. Make sure to subscribe, ring the notification bell, share, buy my merch, all that fun stuff. Use code ADIZ. What was it? Use code 100K away to get 50% out discount on your merch orders. And yeah, once again, thank you guys for all the support. That's like my third or fourth time saying it. You guys get the point now. And this is AdizzPro saying goodbye from the Alternative Future of the World series, Season 1.
Die Maschine ist vollständig.
Ist es stabil?
Ich bin mir nicht sicher. Aber was bleibt noch? Was haben wir noch zu verlieren?
Du hast recht. Lass es uns aktivieren.